Can't be contained.
That's what I'm talking about. When I see people on the internet integrating spirituality and business, I'm like, we need to be best friends. And not only that, when someone can do it and be super fun and crazy and just be a weirdo on the internet, I like doubly love them. And so I feel like I've known James my whole life in this interview, and I truly feel like we could have kept talking for like 15 hours. It was so good. It was one of those podcasts where I just had chills on my chills. There was chills all over the place. And his transmissions and his frameworks and the way that he talks about integrating his soul, spirituality, energy into his insanely successful business. This is another thing. It's like there's a lot of people talking about spirituality on the internet, but someone who is actually insanely successful and credits spirituality and energy work to his success is just like someone I want to really be friends with, because it's truly everything that I believe in, and it's truly how I've been able to build Pause Breathwork. I wouldn't have this company if I didn't heavily rely on spirituality, energy, mindset, my identity, giving myself permission, following my soul, letting my soul be on my board of directors. And when I sat down with James, I was like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? Like, you get it. You get this. All right, so here's a little bit about James. With over 15 years experience as an expert running a consistent 8-figure-a-year online business, he has spent the last decade teaching entrepreneurs how to launch and scale their digital brands. Beginning his career as the YouTube guy, James made a real name for himself teaching. I remember this, by the way. Like when I first started in entrepreneurship, I was like, who's that dude doing the YouTube thing? Anyway, he really taught people how to leverage their power using video and YouTube marketing to reach more people, share their message, and ultimately convert those into customers. So in 2016, James made a massive shift to focus on the big gap missing in the marketplace, the mindset needed for entrepreneurship, which is absolutely everything. He launched a totally woo-woo podcast, which is so good, by the way. Definitely go check this out. The Mind Your Business podcast, and his signature program, Business by Design. Today, he helps coaches, experts, content creators, and authors not only craft better marketing messages, but also ditch the daily hustle mentality. Can you guys tell why I wanted him on the podcast? And create true lasting success from the inside out. You guys, I freaking loved this episode so much, and I really hope you love it as much as I did. All right, before you do anything, before you listen to this podcast, do not forget that I am closing the doors to the Life Mastermind for 2025. If you are one of the ones that is waiting for the very last minute to jump in and say yes to this container to expand you into your greatest heights in 2025, go to www.pausebreathwork.com/mastermind. That's www.pausebreathwork.com/mastermind. James, I'm so stoked to have you on the show, dude. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I can feel those Sedona vibes coming right through your camera.
Yeah, the Sedona vibes. Let me tell you, Sedona comes with a warning for people. There's a joke amongst the locals that people can't last 6 months here. And it's because Sedona is a beautiful teacher, and you kind of have to deal with your shit when you come here. I've described living in Sedona as like walking a tightrope with like 100-pound weights on either side. As long as you stay in your center, you move slowly and you stay balanced, you're going to be fine. But you do something like stub your toe or have a bad morning, and it's like you're going to fall pretty fast here. So it's taught me to learn how to manage myself more effectively than I ever had in my life, and to slow down and to be with nature. And then the manifesting that happens here is unreal. Like it comes out your mouth and you blink and it's there. Like I have stories. Like it's insane. Like I'll think of somebody and I go, I'm going to bump into them today. And 20 minutes later, they're there. You know, like stuff like that happens all the time. So
okay. So what I'm so curious about is oftentimes entrepreneurs are like, I need to get to New York City. I need to go to San Francisco. I need to
Yeah.
be in the hustle bustle of it.
Yeah.
And you are someone who has an incredibly successful business because you pour so much love into helping people design amazing businesses. And yet you're in Sedona. That kind of goes against the principle of like, get in the energy. So what is that? Like, what's the principle that you live
So
behind?
I've lived in 3 places in my life. I am a big advocate that you are to a degree, a product of your environment. That you can lie to yourself as much as you want, but where you live, the environment that you're in has a frequency and it is affecting you.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the best, sometimes not. So I've lived in New
Yeah.
York. I lived in the city.
Yeah.
I grew up in Laguna Beach, and I moved. I was telling you before the show in 2020, I moved to Sedona, and I've been ever since. So New York has a very. I haven't been in 6 or 7 years, so maybe that's different. But there's courts in the ground or whatever of New York City, so it's an amplifier for sure. It's a very, very frenetic energy. It's a very like go, go, go. And there's no stop.
Yeah.
And I found out the hard way, I'm like really sensitive to that. So when I moved there, yes, I was inspired. I just started kicking butt. I had a lot of growth in my business. And then I would wake up and realizing like I haven't taken a day off. Like I haven't stopped. I haven't been in nature. And I was fortunate enough to go when I was young enough. So like when your young self, you can kind of like, late
Roll.
20s, you can
Yeah.
roll with that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't last a year because I couldn't stop. And Laguna Beach for me has been like the perfect balance because it has a slower pace, but your neighbors with like multi millionaires. Like some of the neighbors, I have some of the coolest neighbors. Like, do you know the clothing company Volcom? You remember Volcom Clothing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The founder was my next door neighbor for like 10
Stop.
years. Yeah. Tucker was his name.
No way.
I asked him once, how did you come up with the name Volcom? He goes, well, we wanted something like edgy and unique. And he took the name Malcolm X. And if you draw a line through the middle of it, like a strikeout, it spells Volcom. Like what?
Oh
Like that's just him telling me like while he's watering his garden one day, right? So
that's when I dated a lot of skater boys, so I knew all about Vulcan.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I mean, like Orange County, like so many surf brands and like really cool companies or originated from there. The owner of Russ Trolls, you remember the Trolls? They made the movies on them. Was my neighbor. He lived 4 hours down. A world-renowned eye surgeon, like the best in the world, is our other next door neighbor. Like we just have these amazing people. So I always joked and said Laguna Beach was like billionaires in board shorts.
Yeah.
So you had these people that had unbelievable wealth. Like I'm talking $12 to $20 million oceanfront homes, and they had like a mustard stain on their tank top. So there was like this almost like like a contradiction in this low key opulence. And I grew up in that and I loved that. So I found my best balance there of like, you can do great big things, but you don't forget to like smell the roses. And there's a beautiful, I believe it's Navajo, but I know it's Indian phrase. It says, if you want to heal, let's see if you want to heal your body, live at the ocean. You want to heal your mind, move to the mountains. But if you want to heal your soul, your spirit, you move to the desert. And Sedona called to me. And I came here, and Sedona has been just life-changing for me. And it is a slower pace. Sometimes living here is like walking through Jell-O. Like you just have to move slower, and she will knock you over if you try to get too Speedy Gonzalez. But I'll tell you, like you find a pace. Speed really has nothing to do with success.
Say it again for the people in the back.
If you hear it in the proper context, speed really doesn't have to do anything with success. And let me give you an example of that. Gears on a bike or gears in a car. Okay, so like you can be riding a bike and you can be in one of those high gears and you're just moving your feet as fast as possible, but you're already going downhill and you're going crazy, but it's not really doing it. You know that feeling, right? You're just like, you're almost moving too fast for the bike.
Yeah.
And then you can be in an experience where you're actually going faster while you're moving slower. And it's about finding that right gear for the type of speed you want to go. And people just think they need to be in like Speedy Gonzalez move to see success. And I've looked back at my life. I've been running an online business since 2007. That's a really long time. Like I've learned a lot. I've done a lot. Today I think like anytime someone comes to me with a question, all I'm doing is going back to the Rolodex of mess ups. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. I remember when I made that mistake, and like the lessons that come with those, right? And I look back at that, and especially the first like 10 years of that, so much of that, even though there's lessons in that, and there's no regrets, anybody listening to this, you look back, how much of the things you were doing was actually just like you staying busy, and it didn't even amount to anything. Like you just couldn't take a day off. You felt guilty. You felt the uncomfortable uncertainty of being with a goal or being with yourself. And so you're like, I can't take a day off, so I need to distract myself and just be busy. And you end up being busy doing things that were just distractions in the first place. And so I really recognized that in myself. And I was like, what we're really doing, and this is something my spiritual teacher really bestowed upon me, is like, one of the games that we're playing is energy conservation. And that's has layered meanings to it. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. Like people will drain your energy, and that's okay. Like you don't need to be like, I hate these people because they're vampires or anything. It's like people just do that. Like they ask a question, they're pulling, like, okay, like, like we just finished a big event. It's our big event of the year. And I had to really practice, hey, 3 days of silence and stillness. Like and that's why when we scheduled this podcast, I was like, it's going to have to be a few days after my event.
Yeah.
Because I have to restore that energy.
Calibrate,
But then you look at your to-do list and you look at the things that you're doing, and I can guarantee everyone here, there's things that either you shouldn't be doing at all, or when we get into the business 3D conversation, they shouldn't be done by you. And so I've just gotten really good at discerning the difference and the distinctions of that. And like, it's a game that we should all be playing, which is to master the conservation of our energy.
So good.
And that is going to be almost impossible for you if your worthiness is still linked to effort. Like, I'm not going to be good enough until I work enough, until I accomplish enough, until I do enough and prove myself enough. Well, then that's what's driving that. But if when that's healed and when that's gone, your doing is just the expression of who you are in the world. Like it's just, I just do because I said, I just do because I am. Like your being is, I did this podcast. Your being is, I launched this program. Your being is, I closed a client today. It's not even an effort anymore. And then you realize the biggest place that we are not conserving our energy is all the resistance and the back and forth that we put ourselves through. And it's kind of a funny, like, it almost sounds like it shouldn't be the appropriate metaphor, but like the more you're like a robot, the more you conserve that energy. For what I mean is, like, imagine you had an AI robot and you would just program it to do an action. It wouldn't go, I don't know, am I good enough? Am I ready enough?
Totally.
Do I have your permission? Or would it just do it? So like if I just programmed myself an input, like have 3 sales calls with 3, strangers, you just go, okay, and I did it.
Absolutely.
And just like a robot would, like you just input, output, right?
Yeah.
Like directive, order, accomplish.
Yeah.
And you realize how much of our energy we're actually draining ourselves because we tax ourselves and we get into the thinking and the worrying and the whatabouts and the reasons and the becauses and the fears and all that versus just like, well, I said I was going to do it, so let's just do it and see what happens.
Absolutely. Stoicism taught me this, actually. Of the whole concept of like I have this little sticky note that says "be neutral." On
it's so powerful because if you're not going to be neutral, you're going to the extremes of the pendulum, and people don't really get that. Like if you here's a great example that people don't want to hear. People want to learn how to not take things personally when they get a hater, a refund, a complaint, whatever, right? And it's anything you're doing, whether it's coaching or teaching or putting content. It is like we're an artist, and that's our art because it's an expression of you out in the world that other people can be touched, moved, and inspired by it. So it can be very vulnerable. It can be very personal. We can internalize anything they're saying. So people go, well, I don't want to be taken down for like a week. I don't want to have a bad day, bad week, bad month because somebody said something. Because we do know conceptually, like, you're not here to make everyone happy. And if you are, you're going to be miserable. So how do I do that? And people don't like my answer. And it's like, well, if you don't want to take the negative personal, you actually can't take the positive personal.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
to the degree in which you are just like, your head gets so big with praise and yes, when they say, Samantha, you're amazing, you're incredible, you're like, yes, 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 yes. Well, you're going to be going, no, 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 every time they say something bad.
Exactly.
And what I'm saying is very simple, but it's very hard because it does feel good when someone's like, you changed my life. You're incredible. Thank you so much. But to the degree in which you take that in and let your ego just feed off of that, you're taking in the negative too. And so to stay neutral is seeing that positive or negative, what someone is sharing is mostly they're getting an idea of their own world.
Absolutely.
I've had experiences more times than I own account where I've had two people sitting right next to each other, and one person said, "What you just said transformed my life," and the other person said, "I'm sorry, what?"
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So that has nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
And so being neutral is the game. I mean, like, that's transmutation, that's rising above, that's staying in your center, and that's where your power is. So
Absolutely.
I really like that.
Yeah, it's like business is a black hole of problems that we just constantly need to solve. It really is. And the moment that we make that personal, or the moment that we, to your point, like attach our worthiness to any outcome or metric or anything, we're on this emotional roller coaster that is just incredibly depleting. And going back to energy conservation, I love that. I've never thought of it in that way.
Yeah.
That is one of the most valuable things that we can do, because our literal life force is the most valuable thing ever. It's like, people buy from you because of your energy. People are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, "Who's James? I want to get to know him because of the transmission." Who is that guy? Who that bro?
I'm learning, and when I figure it out, I promise I will let you know.
And especially with businesses like ours, where there's really nothing, to hide behind, for better or worse, our energy is the thing that we're actually selling.
Yeah. So
I love that so much.
If you have $1, you don't give more than 50 cents. And I think a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this, become the martyr to their marketplace, and they leave it all on the line until they're empty and there's nothing left. So we just did this 3-day event, and this event, I say, is like, it's a combination between, like, in my experience, a business wedding, because the only other time in your life where you have everyone you love under one roof is a wedding, right? Well, it's like, well, guess what? I have a business wedding where all of my favorite clients, my peers, my friends, like Samantha, I have a crystal guy, and we bring him to this event. And this guy, he has a booth. He goes to the shows in Sedona. He goes to all the gem fairs around the country, and he's just the coolest guy you'll ever meet. And his whole life is about rocks. And I love this guy to death. And I bring him to this event because I'm like, people need to experience all the love and the amazing relationships I have. So it's this business wedding, but it's also, it's a celebration of our customers. It's like the way I can come in and say, let me pour into you guys for 3 days and just say thank you to you, because we get to do what we do and fund all of it because of you. And I don't take that lightly. And the reason I'm saying this is because they all know, and I know, that I could keep going for 10 more days. But I can't go to zero. I can't lay it all on the line, because we still have to conserve something, because it is a marathon. And that energy management piece and conservation piece is so big. And I understand that is a journey for us to like navigate into that, because when you're new at something, like you get your first client, you're like, I want to do great. I want them to be happy. And so there's a metaphor I want to offer your audience that has really helped me. And it's anytime you're either working with one client, a group client, at an event, it doesn't matter. But when you're in a working relationship where your role is, I'm a facilitator, a coach, a teacher, or a mentor, and they are here to receive, I want you to imagine that it's any field, any court. It could be a volleyball court, a basketball court, it could be a football field. And in all of these courts, they have a center point line. They have the 50-yard line. It's the center. And our role as a coach, teacher, mentor, facilitator is to walk up to that line. Now, all of us here, you're in business long enough, you're going to have experiences where you have a paying customer who can't even do their part. They can't even walk up to the line. Or maybe they walk up for a little bit and then they go back. But what we must do for your health and sanity, and also out of respect for all your other clients, is you never, ever, ever, ever cross that line. And I will never do that. And I demonstrate for that for my clients. You know, someone wants coaching and I coach them. I'm not now going to go to their house and say, here's, move over. I'll build your business and take over their laptop and I'll just do it for you. Let me just sell for you. Let me just be the face and we can AI your face on top of mine. You know, like that would be an extreme, exaggerated version of I'm crossing over. And that's a really great practice because oftentimes what this really comes down to, as you can imagine, is boundaries. And setting those boundaries and enforcing those. You know, I learned this from the 1993 classic Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park, because there's a line in that movie. And in the line, they say that the dinosaurs love to test the fence for weaknesses. Well, guess what? The moment you're in a dynamic with any client, there is a certain breed, and it's just humans. I don't take it personally. There's a certain type of human that loves to test the boundaries of someone in a role of power or leadership. And they want to see.
Human nature.
It's human nature. It's so fascinating. So in the movie, until Nedry turned the power grid off, you would get electrocuted. You'd get a little shock. You have to enforce the boundary. And you don't enforce the boundary with your client because you're a jerk or a bitch or anything like that. You do it because you must be protected for the goodness and sake of all of your clients. So Jurassic Park. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it yet.
I love it. I love it. I truly believe that the most successful business owners in the world are the ones that have the most worthiness. It's like people pleasing. If we're not setting boundaries, then we're just crossing our own boundaries and we're people pleasing, and then we just get resentful and then we burn the whole thing down.
And they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Like you have to understand that people aren't just listening to what you say, but they're watching how you show up. And they will react to you based on the energy that you bring in. And so, you know, I understand it's part of the human path to discover our worthiness and heal that. And that's part of it. You know, I get that. But it's so important that you can at least start with saying, I have something that can. That's the way I want you to say it. I have something that can make a difference for somebody. Whether or not they see that has nothing to do with me.
Oh, it's so liberating, James.
Yeah. And that's a nice sentiment. You can all write that down and say, oh, yeah. When that is in you, like that's in your DNA, you will attract different clients. You will show up so powerfully and they will get more results. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I'm here for it.
My assumption about you is the man you were in 2007 when you started is very different than who you are today. And the way that you show up in your business, I'm sure, is very different to who you are today. Yeah. And so can you give us a little bit of contrast, kind of like paint the gap a little bit of like who you used to be, how business used to feel, and then the man that you are now, which I'm experiencing you as a very embodied, healthy masculine. And what was that gap?
Yeah, so I can paint a few pictures for me. So and just to say, like, when I'm on my podcast or any of my stuff, I talk about a lot of personal and spiritual growth. And I do that because that's the difference that made the difference for me. I say that, entrepreneurship is an inside job. So when we grow, you will see that manifest in your business, because what is happening is every time you do have an insight, a breakthrough, a letting go or a shedding of something, you are activating that latentness inside of you. More power is being recalled, reclaimed, and coming back to you. So you're operating a new frequency. So when you're operating a new frequency, everything that you touch will now be touched differently. The people that you interact with will interact with you differently. Clients, customers, prospects, audience. So it all changes because you changed. So I didn't know that. Back then, I was totes like an atheist, like logical atheist. I was just like, would have these conversations like, I think when you die, you just don't even know it because you're dead, and that's it, period. So that's where I started. I had this, that was it. And I was my dad was very 3D. You work hard and then you die and money doesn't grow on trees. So it's just about, if you want to be successful, you just work until your eyeballs bleed and that's it. And then I met this beautiful woman in my life, and she was the opposite of that. She was like basically like the unconditional love of a puppy that came into my life, and I screwed it up and broke it off with her because I said, I can get a sense you're trying to pour love into me, and it's like you're trying to pour a 5-gallon bucket into a thimble. Like, I don't have the capacity to receive this, and I don't want to. I'm trying to build a business. Leave me alone with all this love junk. Okay, so that's where I was. And we broke up, and I dove into my business as a guy would, gets into his, have you ever heard that metaphor that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti? And the men will compartmentalize. So I can be like, put this love thing over here and just compartmentalize that. And women are much more naturally like, it's all connected, right? Totally. So I could just focus in on business. And I had this experience where I had, I think I'd made $10,000 the year before, for context. And we launched a program. This is 2011, called Video Traffic Academy. My buddy Lewis Howes and I did it, and we made with $97. That was it. It was an online course teaching you how to use YouTube. And we made $400,000 in sales in the first 30 days with it. So all of a sudden, I had more money in my bank account in 1 week than I had in the entire lifetime of being alive. And I fell into a deep, dark depression. And it was really scary. I started just like drinking and smoking weed all day. I couldn't get off the couch. And I was like depressed. And the reason I was depressed is because I had put all my marbles on this money, that this is the thing that is going to make me good enough, worthy enough, get rid of the self-loathing. I had this like pathetic perception of myself, that I'm just pathetic. I hated myself in a lot of ways. I just thought I'm a loser, but I can compensate by working harder, right? And so here it is. Here's everything that you ever wanted, and it didn't change a damn thing. And when you're faced with that, it's a really scary reality. So I went into a dark depression. Well, this ex of mine had the audacity, after I'd been broken up a year, to still send me a Christmas gift. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why are you trying to be the better person? You just like salt on the wound, twist the knife. Why do you always have to be the better person? And what she sent me were these tapes. And these tapes were from a gentleman who was teaching some basic spiritual stuff, like law of attraction. And I was like, at first I was like, F you. Like, how dare you? Like, all I could perceive it, because, perception is projection, right? Was like, the only reason you would do this was to communicate you're the better person. You're right. You win. Okay. I was like, that was the place I was in. I was angry. I was depressed. And then this was just salt on the wound. But she just said, like, I can't stop thinking about you. And I feel like you need these tapes. And so I popped them in and I started listening. And it was a guy teaching some basics of like law of attraction. And little by little, it was like a light at the end of the end of a dark tunnel of my life. And I started walking through it. And it was my first dose into some basic, as I would say, the entry level spiritual distinctions. When we're talking about manifestation and law of attraction and gratitude. And so I said, well, this guy is a dude. I can resonate with him. And sounds like he's accomplished some things. It sounds like he's got money. So that's awesome. So I just started listening, and I said, what's the worst what's the worst could happen? I felt like I had the money and I'm rock bottom, so I got nothing to lose. And, long story short, I saw evidence pretty quickly of magic and miracles coming into my life, and the depression cleared. Around that same time, I started getting testimonials from that program coming in. People were just like, this is the best thing we're taking. This is working. Oh my gosh. And so I was like hit with that, and like everything started to change in my life. And I noticed that the more I kept going on that spiritual path, I'm trying to condense a 10-year journey, but the more I continued on that path, the more I grew. And then the more I grew, I saw growth in the business. And, until, like, long story short, we've had this meteoric rise and took the business over $12 million a year. That's where it's been at now for several years. And
that's so great.
And the best part about that story is that X came back into my life miraculously.
I
Gave me,
literally, I was like, is it Jenny? This whole
yeah,
time
and
I'm like,
it's Jenny. So,
shut up.
so you and I are mutual friends with Kate Northrup. There's a whole story in there.
Oh
I
my
was
God,
married.
James. I literally was like, it's Jenny.
Yeah. I know.
That's
So
so
I
great.
gotta, just see the twists and weaves and stuff like that. So,
This is so, I'm
Kate.
into
So
this.
I got married to somebody else, and there's a whole journey there and whatnot. And while I was married to her, and this is in like January of 2019, I'm at an event with Kate Northrup, and now I'm talking about some of these spiritual concepts and distinctions. And getting pretty weird about it in my way. I always like to joke it's weird because I love being weird, and sometimes I scare people. And I
I
love
love your
that.
weirdness.
I kind
I
of
love
feel
your
like
weirdness.
it's an honor if we can kind of bend people's minds a little bit. So I enjoy doing that. And so we went to dinner. I might have had a drink or two. And so Kate just looks at me and she's like, so how did you get into all this weird stuff? And I just organically started telling the story. And all of a sudden, I'm watching myself tell this story. And that's where the story started, was that December when I got a Christmas gift from my ex. And I continued the story and I continued the story. And at every moment, Samantha, where I said, and then this happened, and then that happened, then I learned this, Jenny was there. Jenny had come back into my life to introduce me to every little piece. She introduced me to a personal development seminar. She introduced me to a spiritual retreat. She introduced me to Reiki and energy healing and crystals. And she kept coming back, and she would just come back into my life and say, here, read this book. Here, go to this event. Here, try this, try this. And every time she did, it catapulted me. And 2 weeks after I was going through a really, really tough divorce, and I'm meditating. I have a little healing room or meditation room. I'm going in there, and 2 weeks into this divorce, 2 weeks in silence, and I haven't spoken to her in now 6 years. Boom, her name pops into my head. And I'm kind of like, as a dude, I'm like, calm down, bro. You've been technically single for not even, just calm down, okay? And next night, boom, she pops right in. Third night in a row, she pops in again. And I text her out of the blue, and I was like, hey, you're on my radar. You're coming in hot. Are you okay? And she's like, actually, I'm not. And she was going through it's emotional for me, but she was going through a really rough time in her life. And I was going through it. I was like, hey, samesies, I'm going through a really rough time. And I invited her out to Sedona. I was like, this place has been really healing for me. Come out. I didn't know if she had a boyfriend. I didn't know if she had a kid at this point. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I said, just come out. And it was instant connection, 20 years in the making.
Dude.
And it was we didn't even skip a beat. And here we are. And now she runs the business with me. And she's on stage with me at that event the whole 3 days. And she steals the show. They come, it's the joke is they come for James and they stay for Jenny. And it's a blessing because Samantha, it's a blessing because I think so much is the growth and the journey I went on is people now want what I have or whatever, or some version of it, business, money, blah, 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 blah. And it's I'm just trying to tell you what I did, but what I did was received the help and guidance of all these amazing people. And Jen was the number one influence on my growth in my life. So to give my audience the stage of here she is, here's the person that just catapulted me in every turn is the coolest 360 moment for us. So I tried to get the whole 20-year love story in there.
I love
I'm
that story
sorry.
so much. I literally have full body goosebumps. I love life. I love the way life
you
works.
couldn't write that.
You can't make this shit up. It's so beautifully orchestrated, just with so much precision. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. It's incredible. Well, kudos to you for being open to the call and opening up and receiving the messages and taking action. And I think that's so much of what allows us to have an easeful life of just not only abundance, but just a lot of fulfillment is, can we quiet down the rush? Can we quiet down the noise? Can we release the addiction to destination and just simply be open to, I'm a vessel for the divine. What do you want me to do? Use me.
Yeah.
Use me, shape me, mold me.
That's
and it's really beautiful when there can be this gorgeous amalgamation between adding so much value in the world and having these beautiful businesses, but them also being aligned with the soul. Yeah. And there's something about that. And it's actually, in my experience, a little bit rare.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also sad too, because like so much of marketing out there is tapping into more of the ego stuff. So it is like it's perpetuating it. And I understand that. Like, I have clients where it's hard for me because I think there is something spiritual in nature in work. Like I think it's beautiful to invest your heart, your time, and your energy into something. And I think there is something very spiritual in that. And it's like, I tell people today, working harder doesn't have to be like, oh, that's just coming from 3D. It's if it's where it's driven from. And I love when I do something like when we get off of this event, I can look back and I say, I gave it all I got. I gave it my 100%. I poured my heart into it. And it wasn't to prove anything, to be worthy of something. It was just because I can. Because you could either give someone a Christmas gift as like, here's a gift card, or you could like paint them something. And it's like, which one is more meaningful? The painting that took 12 hours or like, here's an Amazon gift card. And it's the painting. Even if the painting sucked, you're like, wow, you put that time. So there's something in that. And I think if we looked at our work like that, like this is a gift I get to give people and I get to be, as you said, used as that vessel, then I want a portion of my life to be used that way, to create our art, but not because I'm trying to prove anything, but because I can.
Absolutely. So I've been thinking a lot about principles and principles I read Ray Dalio's book called Principles. And then Eric and I got married 2 months ago. So I've been thinking a lot about like our family principles. Yeah, that was a good time. And
a good time,
marriage is fun. It's a good time. And I'm curious for you, principles guide our lives. They guide our intent and they guide our motivation and how we create things and stuff like that. And so what are the principles that you live by in your business to allow yourself to attract a lot of like 12 million is not a small thing. It's a beautiful, big business. And also you're doing it from a very grounded, beautiful, energetically aligned place. So what is the principles that you've decided for you that have allowed you to bring that forth into the world?
Well, I want to make sure, it's a beautiful question, but I want to make sure I'm, because I always want to be very intentional with words. I use the word principles that I might be in a different context than the way that you're speaking to. Because I talk a lot about principles. To me, a principle is similar to, excuse me, like a law. Like the law of gravity is like a principle. It's an unwavering truth. And so when I'm using the phrases principles, and we can get into that distinction because it's really fun. There's like, we exist, when we're in business, we're existing in these multiple bubbles or domains, and each of these domains have their own set of principles. If you violate the principles, if you violate if you go against those principles, whatever you're doing isn't going to work. Like law of attraction, I say as a law is a principle, right? This principle of vibration and attraction. What I use as the term is codes of conduct. And so I think that's more what you're saying is like rules for living. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a set of codes of conduct, which, I'm in human form. I fall short of all the time. But they are a guide, it's like our own commandments. That's more what you were asking. Is that correct? That's
totally.
Great. Cool. Yeah. So at the top of that list for me, and it's the most, I'm going to give you two like really great ones, and you tell me if you want to keep going or you're bored. Yeah. The first one, and this is unbelievably powerful, and I run the risk of when I say this, people will tune out. They'll tune out because it's too simple, and they'll say, "Oh, I've heard that. I got that. I already do that." And it's like, no, you don't, because I fall short of it every day. And that is this whole concept of integrity. Now, when people hear integrity, they'll also hear meaning a couple things. One of the biggest distinctions or definitions I have of integrity that we're talking about here is the alignment and congruency between your word and your actions. So you are your word. The power of you is manifested through your word. So when you say, I'm going to call you tomorrow, Samantha, I'll be there, at 2 or whatever time. Yeah, we started at 2 my time. And I'm not, then I'm not very powerful with my word, because clearly I said I'd be there at 2 and I couldn't be there at 2. Yeah. So this whole principle of integrity and keeping that integrity will transform your life. I can guarantee it. But most people won't get it because they don't see where they're not in integrity. They see excuses and reasons. Well, I couldn't be here because I was late, Samantha. You're still out of integrity. But what did you do about it? Hey, Samantha, I'm stuck in traffic. There was an accident. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Is that okay? Or do you want to reschedule? Let's reschedule. Okay, great. I'm going to make it up to you. What else can I do to make, here's a $50 Amazon gift card, or I can paint you a painting, whatever you want, right? You see what I did there?
I'd like a painting.
Yeah,
full circle.
Yeah, full circle right there.
Call back.
So I mean, if you wanted to, like, we could talk 3 hours about integrity and I don't get to everything. So like that is so big. So it's like, watch your word, watch what you say, follow through with what you say, but most importantly, honor and respect your word. Promises made, promises kept. And when you can't keep a promise, you make it up. You hold yourself accountable. That's a massive principle. And if you just did that, I guarantee you did that for 12 months straight, your life would transform.
100%.
Because if I say, 100%. I can keep my word with emailing you, I can keep my word with being on this call, I can keep my word with sending you this or sending you that, then I can also keep my word with my goals.
Yes.
I can keep my word with that book I'm going to write, that launch I'm going to do, that stage I'm going to be on. And it's like, now you're getting it, because Luke Skywalker said lifting rocks is one thing, but a whole X-Wing fighter, no, it's the same thing. Exactly. If I can't keep my word to be here at 2, then how the hell am I supposed to keep my word to the biggest launch I've ever done, the best book I've ever written, or whatever?
Energy has no walls, and it just all flows.
Yeah. And your word has power, but only when you are present to it. So when you throw it around like it doesn't mean anything, then you are leaking your power. So you are powerful when you recognize how powerful your word is. So that's the biggest one. The number 2, and this one is the balloons are worthy of that right there for this one.
What?
I don't know. It just does that. And sometimes my thumbs up, I get stuff. Maybe thumbs down. Who knows? But
that was like a little poke from God. Like you're on it. You're on it.
Yeah, this is it. Like rise above with the balloons. Rise high with the balloons. This one is the same thing. It's it's the little things that make all the difference. So if you were sitting here and you're like, I don't really see how being your word is important. Well, you're not going to see it with this one. This is something that my spiritual mentor taught me years ago. It's called Aini, and it's the sacred. This is a universal principle no one talks about, and it's everything. I think it's actually the most powerful principle, and it's the law of reciprocity or sacred reciprocity. And what it really means is if you look to nature, everything in nature has a balance. Like if you just look at trees, right? Like we breathe each other's exhales. And there's a balance there. There's these videos that go viral of these humans that like save a creature, like they save like an otter, or they save a dolphin. And if you watch in the video, after the human saves the animal will always bring something to the human. I saw this cute video and this otter brought like a little rock and like put it on the person's like paddleboard or something.
It's so sweet.
Because nature understands Aini, the reciprocity. What that means is if you take on in your life to be the steward of balance, that you are balancing the energies with everyone in your life, to the degree, and you write this down, to the degree that you have balance is the degree in which you'll have abundance. So balance creates the environment for more abundance.
So good.
And this gets really uncomfortable because first I can sit there and go, oh, this is easy. Think of anybody in your life that is taking more and not giving. Like they're always asking a favor. Hey, you've got a truck, Samantha. You want to help me move? Yes, that's what I want to do this weekend is help you move, right? But you're like, sure. And then they go, oh, hey, by the way, can you also do this? And can you do this? And you're like, this person, like I don't even want to answer their phone call anymore.
Yeah.
So that's easy. We can always recognize and call to mind somebody that's a taker in our life. Now, 2 parts. Number 1, well, guess what? That's on you. This goes back to the boundaries thing.
Absolutely.
So if you want to blame them or whatever, you're not helping yourself out. The law of Aini is saying you are responsible for that. You are allowing that on some way. So you need to put a stop to that. You need to start asking. You need to balance that in some way. You are responsible for the balance. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is now let's reverse the equation. And this is the hardest part for people to look at. And the only reason it's hard for you to look at is because you're a good person. So you don't want to like beat yourself up. It's not about covering yourself in a shame shower. We're not going to have a shame shower right now. But where in your life has someone given to you and you haven't returned that? your mom's always there for you, but you don't even answer the phone when she calls. Where is that person that's always there for you, but you haven't returned it? And when I took that on, it's two jobs. It's protect the people that are always taking, protect against the people that are always taking, and balance the people that are giving. And when I've made that a priority in my life, I am telling you, Samantha, like, the people think this is silly. They scoff at it. I can guarantee you it will transform your life. Be the otter, and even just giving the little rock. And it is not about what it is. It's about the energy of it. If I sat there and just wrote you a handwritten card and just spent it doesn't matter. It's about the gesture. It's the energy behind it. Like, thank you for letting me be on your show. It means a ton to me. It's not just like, yeah, you're lucky to have me. Who's next? Who else wants? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not about that. It's like, you gave, I give. You give, I give. And the more you balance that, the more it gets amplified. The more people want to give, the more you won't get taken advantage of. And as they say, the receiving is in the giving. I guarantee you will have a beautiful experience of more abundance coming in your life. So those are two that are at the top of my list. I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. But those are the biggest.
So good.
Is it not true, though, that those are things that most people, even if it's simple, most people aren't even aware. It's not even in their field of vision that we should be doing that every day. Yeah. Where can I be my word? And where can I balance the harmony with the humans in my life?
There was a quote, I think it's Alex Hormozy. He said, those who say money doesn't buy happiness haven't given enough away. Right?
Yeah, wow.
I was like, that's so good. Yeah. And there's like layers of reciprocity. Money is obviously one of them, but even just presence, in our hyper-connected, it's like giving someone your time and being so present with them and just listening, like, the impact of that is just so profound. Like when I'm when I'm connecting with people and I really feel like that person's like dropped in and they're present and they're listening, somatically, my body gets so charged. Like, it's such a gift. I'm like, wow.
Have you ever had it? I mean, obviously you've had an experience, but have you ever done an exercise where you're asked, we do this with some of our events, where you're asked to like share something personal or exciting in your life, but the listener, their job is to not listen. It is and you have to talk about you and your wedding with your husband for somebody for 3 minutes while they're on their intentionally.
Oh God, so bad.
It feels like a vacuum sucking your soul. Like, it is the worst experience. So when you understand that and then you do the opposite, you're spot on. Just being present with someone, active listening with another human being can be all the gift that they need. And, when we did this event, like, it's hard. There's 1,000 people. When I started, it was 40 people. And now it's a lot. And even like, I have good friends in the room and I don't even get to see them like the majority of the time because I'm like backstage. There's like a security guard and all that stuff. And we do little activities like cocktail parties and in the mornings and the evenings. And you're so right. Like, sometimes I get times like where we just get to sit and hang out with them. And I know that's a benefit for both of us because I need to hear from them just as much as they need to hear from me. So you're spot on.
If your business isn't working, look at how you're showing up in all areas of your life. Oftentimes we try and like throw, like, change the strategy, and we like over-engineer and over-manufacture our businesses when really it's an energetic game. Yeah. It's an energetic game. Like, where are we out of integrity? Where are we not being reciprocal? Mm-hmm. Where are we not being aligned? Where are we not being loving or caring? That's the stuff that truly matters.
Yeah. I always tease my clients and saying, like, before you change your strategy, I'm just going to tell you, I could use your strategy and make this work. So just saying, like, I'll make it work. Like, I don't think I'm going to do a challenge because I don't think it'll do as well as a webinar. And I was like, well, I would make the challenge work. Like, I could do it. So why can't you?
I love that. I love it.
It ain't the challenge. It ain't that. It ain't that. 90%. I tell people, if it comes to selling something, the strategy is actually only a 10% variable, factoring the result. What a big piece of it actually is, to go 3D in marketing for a moment, is the messaging, but you are the messenger. So the message is the experience that they go on with your unique energetic signature. And so everything is the messaging. I mean, we could do a secret podcast launch. We could do a hologram launch. We could do an in-person launch. Like, we could do it over telephone. And it doesn't matter because it's you and what comes out of your mouth that matters. And so if it's you and your performance and what comes out of your mouth, how important is it that we're managing ourselves properly so that that message is pure and as powerful as it could possibly be?
Oh, so good. And that's the stuff that's overlooked so
Oh, of course
much.
it is.
So
Yeah, the
much.
last place we look is in the mirror, right?
Yeah. It's
So,
like it's a little bit of a trust fall, right? It's like, especially if someone has a business that's sort of struggling or not really hitting their revenue goals or whatever it is, the ego's like, just go harder, just work more, right? And we're like, no, don't actually do that. Look in the mirror and figure
yeah.
out like what inner child
Yeah,
part is
why is it
wounded.
already so hard?
That's it. That's
Why is
it.
it already so hard? And you think just doing harder will solve it. You know, I love this metaphor of like pouring water into a bucket that's full of holes. More water doesn't solve your leaky bucket problem. Sometimes you got to stop and go, oh my gosh, I got to plug this hole. Whether that water represents your own energy and personal power that you're leaking, or maybe it represents money that you're leaking in your business. It's a multi-layered metaphor, you know?
What do you say? What would you say is your relationship to your business? It sounds like as I'm like tracking it and feeling it, I don't feel like a lot of your ego and significance is tied up in your business, which feels quite healthy. That's just my assumption based on the little bit that I know you.
So there's a concept I use with, so I mentioned him a little bit. I work with a shaman. There's a whole beautiful story that he's an actual shaman. It's like people are always like, what's his website? I'm like, shamans don't have websites.
They're not on Instagram. No.
Yeah, it's not a business. Like it's like he's a hermit.
Yeah.
And he's from Mexico. And he's marked. He comes from a lineage of actual shamans. He didn't get a certification or anything like that. Like went to shaman school for a weekend and stuff. And no judgment to, I know people do that, but I'm like, he's like the real deal. He comes
like
from
the real
like
deal,
that
yeah.
whole lineage. And as soon as you start working with him, you come to know this term pretty quickly called a shamanic death, what people hear as an ego death, which is like, that's exactly what happens. Like you die, like a part of you dies. And so I've had a lot of them, but the first big one I had happened so I first connected with him in 2015. So he's been in my life and world a long time, and he's had a really profound impact on my life. And the first big one happened in 2019, where I was so clear on my purpose and what I was doing. And the tricky thing about this business is it's so awesome that it just fills every cup. I mean, it's fun, it's exciting, it's fulfilling, it's abundance, it's like, it's growth, it's relationship. It's like, it can consume your whole life, just like the Midas touch, where like everything turns to gold and even your food turns to gold, like everything.
Yeah.
And I was getting kind of like an unhealthy addiction, especially because my marriage wasn't working. So it was like, great, I've got this thing over here that's working, let's go. And then I started having this shamanic death, and it was really, really scary. All of a sudden, I would be in meditation or be in the morning, and I have these thoughts come into my mind, and they were intense thoughts. They basically, it was like this new voice in my head that I was like really scared of. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, kid? This is just bullshit. Like, what are you even doing with your life? Like, this is worthless. This is stupid. It doesn't even help anybody. Like, you're fooling yourself, blah, blah. And it was just like, and that came out of nowhere. And I had worked through worthiness stuff. I wasn't mean to myself at that point. I used to be. And I was like, where is this coming
What's
from?
happening?
And it was this, I was getting hit. And this, I'm going to answer your question. You just might not know, like, where's he going with this yet? So I was getting hit with this whole, as I learned later, whole new level, and I keep learning new levels of detachment and non-significance and non-importance. And what's really tricky is that business can be so exciting that we put a lot of importance and a lot of significance on it. So 2019, there's a line drawn in my life from before and after. And up until that point, and this is like October of 2019, up until that point, spirituality was a tool in my life to help me grow a business and make more money. But when I emerged out of that death, something unbelievably changed. And my business became a tool for my spiritual growth. And it flipped. And it was a very scary, uncomfortable, and challenging process of flipping, But all of us here today are on some path. And there's a reason why people say cliche things, because cliche is cliche because it has a lot of truth in it. That's why you hear it a lot. It's the journey, not the destination. It's not the journey. It's who you discover yourself to be on the journey. It's what you learn on the journey. It's what you let go of on the journey, what you let in on the journey, and the little bit more of that latency, that personal power that you reclaim on the journey that makes the journey.
Yeah.
And that is the journey and the destination. And so my life took on a much more profound spiritual path of my own growth and evolution, and, beautiful and all that. And then I realized, I'm not here to be a monk's, meditating in a cave and be in non-action. It's the duality of action and non-action, the doing and non-doing. And to allow my business to be a vessel and a tool for my own growth, and to be a vessel and tool for perhaps, maybe, sparking growth in other people. But up until that point, spiritual distinctions and things like law of attraction were to like help me manifest in business. Now it's grow personally, professionally, and spiritually, and a business allows you to do that. And that when that relationship flipped, it was really hard. But now there's a level of like a non-detachment, which can be very scary at first.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
like it's really weird because if like the non-importance thing is a really weird feeling. If everything is equally important, then something can't be important because everything's important. So there isn't a hierarchy of importance, right? Like tending to your rose bushes, your garden is the same as hosting an event for 1,000 people, and having the same like sacredness for everything is like this importance, non-importance kind of thing, and this detachment piece. And so, I that's how I have to manage the business today, is with a detachment. My identity isn't wrapped up into it. I can't get significance from it. I can't get the dopamine hits from it. And that's how we have to manage ourselves that way. And that's where you get power back from that. We're playing. It's just the same as like playing make-believe as a kid, and we're just kind of doing it again. So
Seriously.
anytime I find myself taking something too seriously, I gotta stop and be like, why am I taking it so seriously? So that was a process because, when people go, I found my purpose and that's a very different experience. It's almost like the opposite of then getting in this place of detachment. Because when we feel, I just feel so aligned and so on and ba 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 ba. I've been there and I get that. And then there's another level for you, which is like, you know what your purpose is, you know what you're here to do, but you're not doing it because of the way that it's making me feel. And you're just like, I'm doing, I can, so I must. And it's just another day and another dollar, and that's it. And it gets a really hard thing when I share this with a lot of people. They a lot of them are like, what? Because it's like, well, you see, it's just another altitude. But it's really hard to put into any words beyond what I've just said. But like, you can't put too much importance into it. And then in the same moment, every moment is a chance to change somebody's life, and that's the most important thing. But you're not wrapped, your ego, your identity isn't wrapped up into it.
So when that happened, October 2019, when you sort of like drew that line in the sand, what happened with the business revenue? Up, down, same?
So the business revenue stayed the same, but things started changing. And in 1 hour, like in January, I had 3 team members gone. It was crazy. Like I went in to fire somebody, and while I was having a meeting to fire somebody, to let somebody go, there was a performance issue, and they kind of knew it was coming. Someone else goes, "Oh, can I have?" I said, "Hold on, I got a meeting right now." And then they came in next to quit because they wanted to go follow something of their own. It's beautiful. And then during that meeting, one of my other team members came in and said, I need to tell you something. And I was like, hold on, I'm in another meeting. And I said, okay, what's up? And they said, so-and-so just quit because apparently they haven't been paying their taxes. The IRS is going to garnish their wages and they just want to quit. And then a week later, 2 more employees quit. And that whole year of 2020 was a shedding of people in my business. And today, there's only one person. We had 15 people. And it was like 5 in a couple of days and then 1 after the other. But every single time someone left, the upgrade I got from the new person that came in was like, wow. So what happens is as you're changing, your frequency is changing, you're going to attract different people. And you have to be okay with that. Like I've had people that have been with me a really long time. We've done amazing things. And then we could tell like, we're just not on the same frequency anymore. And it was getting bumpier. It was getting harder. And I have to be okay with releasing those people. And then boom, the new people come in. So that's where the changes really started to occur, is we started bringing in new people. Then shortly after that, I had to look at my marriage. And it was in 2020, I went through a really gnarly divorce, and that took 2 years and 7 months. So I'm like, I'm just trying to maintain the business. And I mean, Samantha, I got canceled on the internet the same week my dad died as I'm going through a divorce. And half my team has quit. Like, talk about
what an initiation.
Yeah, talk about a shamanic death on top of a shamanic death. And I was doing that, and it was really tough. And I don't like regret any of it. I don't wish I didn't have any of it. Like even at the time, there was a part of me that knew like this will serve me. This will help me. And that's not like a Pollyanna. I am a very positive person, but rather than being more positive, I'm just very outcome oriented. I think that's what alchemy is. Yeah. It's using the energy that you're being given for your highest good. Yes. And so you're transmuting that energy. One of the best way to transmute the energy is to learn the lesson. You learn the lesson, you are integrating the experience into your life. And I kept telling myself and praying that I said, if I go through this and I survive this divorce and I make it through on the other end, bring me someone I can help go through the same. And less than a week, I'm not joking, like the same week after the judge, we had to go to court, and the judge is like, you guys are officially done. It's official now. Yeah. Someone in one of my mastermind programs did this big long post saying, I'm getting divorced. I don't know what to do. They want to take everything. Blah, 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 blah. And I said, I got you. And even today I have friends, I have business owners, and they're going through it. And I'm like, hey, listen, I can't give you legal advice, but I can be of great assistance because there's a lot of things no one told me, a lot of things I learned the hard way, a lot of things that we have to learn to manage ourselves and not be caught off guard by. And here's what I want people to get that they don't get. I think this is one of the most simple things of life. To have a goal is great. Okay. And I would say the average person is asleep, doesn't have goals. They're living for the weekend. You could just go random, prove the theory, go to random strangers on the street and you go, you right there, what's your goal? And they're like, just make it for the weekend, and that's most people. That's fine. That's not a problem. Okay. And then
that'd be some fun content.
I think I should do that. That would be really fun to just interview people what's your biggest goal? And and obviously there are people that have dreams and stuff, but they're not they couldn't even put it to words, right? Because they're it's such a pipe dream. I've never had a pipe dream. I've had my goals and I'm just working towards them. And I've already exceeded everything that I thought was possible in my life. So I don't have any pipe dreams because I've gone past what I thought was possible for me in this life. And now I'm just I don't know. I'm just here for it. Whatever happens next, I'm cool.
I'm just playing. I'm just having a good time over here.
That's great. And that's a really beautiful thing. So then you have the next person, which are our entrepreneurial friends. They're driven. They have visions. They got dreams. They've got the vision boards. And you ask them and they tell you. And that's what I say, goal setting 101. But the place that most people never arrive at, and they just don't get it. And I want them to get it because this is the difference. And it's understanding that the moment you have a goal, we have to acknowledge, number one, the reason it's the goal is because you don't have it. And if you don't have it, you probably never have had it. And so you don't have it now, and you probably haven't before. And there's also, by the way, just a clue, you've seen people that lose everything and they get it back really fast. So when something's been a goal for some time and it's been something you've never had before, There's a clue there. There's something to look at there. And so what I say is, every goal that you wants something from you, or rather it needs something from you. And what people want to do is not let go of anything or give anything in the pursuit of their goal. They want to be the same, act the same, do the same, and stay the same, but have a different result. And big goals doesn't really happen that way. It just doesn't happen. That if you look at a goal as a milestone on a mountain, the higher you climb the mountain, the different environment, atmosphere, or altitude, or whatever air pressure that you're going to experience. So at these different altitudes, the game is different and it will require something different. I'm going to give you an example to really ground this, but people don't want to give what is necessary at that altitude for the goal, and so they never get the goal. So a great example of this is people that go, I want to have a big reach and a big audience. How do I reach more people? And it's like the universe is saying, no, I get that you want that. But let me tell you something. To have that in your life and to be safe with that, you must have mastered the ability to have a bunch of eyeballs on you, a bunch of people that won't like you, and handle criticisms, rejections, and judgments. Because if I just gave you that, this is like the universe talking to you. This is like God talking to you right now. If I just gave you 1 million followers, part of that 1 million followers would have haters, critics, and nasty people that have nasty things to say, and it would kill you. So I can't just give that to you. What I have to do is I have to get you to spiritual boot camp. I got to get you to lift. Hey, if right now you can only lift 10 pounds, lift 10 pounds. But then tomorrow you can lift 11 and 12 and 13. And so the universe is trying to give you those workouts. It's trying to give you the muscle testing, muscle strengthening experiences. And so all of a sudden you go, this is my goal. This is my 2025. This is what I'm working for. And then bam, you get a hater. Bam, you get a critic. Bam, you get a judge. And you're like, oh my God, I thought I wanted all this great stuff. Why am I getting all this shit in my life? What the fuck, God? And we go back to where we were. We go back down the mountain where it's safe and comfortable. And instead, God was like, I'm just trying to prepare you for what you want. And trust me, you want to learn this because you learn it now. You don't want to learn it at 1,000 or 1,000,000. You want to learn it with one. And so I've looked at my life that way and to say, everything I want is coming, but I have to experience and learn what I need on the way. And the lessons are painful. Life is the good, bad, and ugly. There is no one getting out alive, 100%. And there's no one getting 100%. Out without feeling pain, without sorrow, without heartbreak, without disappointment, without failure. It's just it's adorable that you listening are trying to be the first person to do that. It's adorable. It ain't gonna happen though. It just ain't gonna happen. So my most powerful affirmation to myself is I'm here for all of it. And the moment you open yourself to say, what we're really resisting in life are emotional experiences, feeling something uncomfortable. It's fucking uncomfortable when you're faced with a divorce where your entire business, every penny that you've worked your booty off is about to be taken away. And you don't know if, and you're reconnected with the love of your life and you're looking her in the eye and say, would you still love me if we have to go rent a shitty ass apartment somewhere? And at least they're like, of course, because she's like, I loved you when you were broke. So of course,
Oh,
I
Jenny.
know. That's what she said to me. And actually my first even manifestation experience was, I wanted to get her tickets to Tony Robbins back in 2009. And I went and called Tony Robbins hotline or whatever the number is, and Tony didn't pick up. Just a fun fact. It was somebody else. Tony, is that you? Is Tony there? Yes, James, make your move. And it wasn't Tony. And basically I go, how much for the tickets? And she said $1,000 and you get a free one. So I was like, you do payment plans. Samantha, she laughed at me on the phone. She laughed at me and I didn't have $1,000, but I had a 500. And so I was hoping I could do like 2 payments of 500. And I said, well, let me check my bank account and I'll call you back. And I checked my bank account and I had $1. What had happened is I had left my AdWords account on and it had withdrawn a $500 payment. I had less than $1 to my name. And I was in just such a rock bottom place. And I was like, I don't even have $1 I can't even buy her a card for her birthday. What a loser, right? So this is back when I was just like going through it. And this is where I first said, okay, I'll try this manifestation stuff. And I said, I did some kind of process, and I said, we're going to be at that event. I don't know how, but here's what I tapped into. I said, but it's not for me. So it's hard for me to receive. It's hard for me to ask, but this isn't about me. This is about her. And I had the biggest breakthrough because I realized in that moment that sometimes we give money so much power that we're like, well, if I just have the money, I'll get what I need. And I was like, skip the middleman. Money was the middleman. I just want to be there with her. She wants to be there. I want to give her that. She deserves that. 2 days later, I'm trying all these ideas, try to make money, try to get things off the ground, whatever. And I get a phone call from a friend and she wants to play tennis. I'm sitting there going, logically, no, I got to work. I got to figure out how to buy these tickets, whatever. And so I said, okay. And we went and played tennis with them 5 minutes. We're warming up. And she's like, what have you been up to? And I was like, well, I'm trying to do this service where I like make sales videos. I used to be in the whole video marketing space. I try to make videos for people and like sales videos and all that type of stuff and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, will you do one for me? I was like, oh, sure. And she goes, I'll barter with you. I was like, oh, I mean, okay, that's fine. She's like, yeah, I got a rep with Tony Robbins. I'll give you Tony Robbins tickets. I thought Ashton Kutcher was going to come around the corner punking me. I was like, this is not real. Shut up. Like, you're fucking with me.
Stop.
I had chills. I dropped my racket. Chills went down my spine. I was like, shut up. Like, what did you just say? She's like, I used to work in the Tony Robbins organization. I have connections with the reps. If you want to barter, they're going to be in town in Long Beach in like 2 weeks. I'm like, I know. And she's like, they give me a ton of tickets. I'll barter tickets for you. And that was another one of these like Jenny moments came into my life and introduced me to magic. And I was like, wow, maybe I should start believing this stuff a little bit, So anyway, yeah. Manifested.
Oh, that's so good. The better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets.
Yeah.
The more that we can just like somatically be all in on the fact that this is a magical experience here on planet Earth. And we have like this one chance to like make this heaven on earth and fulfill our dreams and have a ton of fun and heal our bodies and awaken to our potential.
It's also, Samantha, a lot of like spiritualists will say it's actually like one of the hardest places to incarnate, like it is really rough here and it's tough. And it's like, but we wanted to come back. We wanted to come back at this time and that we can make the most out of it. And we can actually find a lot of beauty in the ugliness. And there is a lot of ugliness. There's a lot of darkness and all that type of stuff and whatnot. And it is challenging. Like, my goodness, so, but that's why I said, we're here for it. So I just wanted to make sure I close that loop from before is like, if you guys really understand this concept of like the moment you've got a goal or dream that exists outside of your current bubble of reality, then it's going to set you on a journey where the universe has to give you things for you to learn. And unfortunately, have you ever heard that phrase, like first God throws a pebble. If you're not paying attention, you get a rock. And if you still don't want to learn the lesson, don't worry. You're going to get a big ass boulder and it's going to get you to freaking pay attention. So, I've just learned that pain really is a blessing because it's the way we pay attention. And when you go and you look at the pain and you go, there's something for me to learn here. Not why does this happen to me? That's the victim mentality that life is happening to us instead of for us. But it's like, you got to learn this. And when I was going through all that stuff, and I kind of called my shaman like, Mayday, I'm going down. He just said, you have to see the blessing in all this, that where you're going and what you're going to be doing, you have to get these lessons and you get them now because you don't want to learn them then. And I've just integrated that so well. It's like, it's painful for sure. It's not to negate the pain and the uncomfortableness, but it's to say what you're going to get on the other side of that is worth the pain. And that's up to us, and I know there's always exceptions. We say like nothing could be worth it. It's like, I understand, but let me give you one more example. I told you before the show, I dove into music about 2 years ago and I just got hooked. I never grew up with music and I just fell in love with playing the guitar and it's just been a journey for me. And so I like to share that stuff with my audience so they know I'm learning the guitar. And when we did our big event last year, I was hanging out with people until like 3 a.m. and they were having drinks. I wasn't drinking because that would have been dangerous because they started egging me on. They should say, next year, you should play the guitar live on stage. And I'm like, okay. And being a man of my word and in my integrity, they started asking me like weeks before the event. They're like, hey man, you said, and I'm like, and I knew I was going to do it, but I was like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And so I have 3 guitar instructors, and I'm very serious in it. I'm not very good, but I'm very good at learning. I'm very good at my discipline. I play every day. I do at least 30 minutes every day. I'm really good at staying in the discipline of the learning process. And I teach that to my students. I'm like, look, I'm learning new things too, and it takes time. Like, have patience. Don't be too hard on yourself. And I went to my instructor and I was like, here's the scenario. I'm not a musician. Where I'm at my play level. I want to play a song on stage. I said, what's the song that I can play that I'll feel comfortable enough playing, but it'll have enough wow? And he's like, that's easy. It's a Star Spangled Banner. Like, just do the national anthem and start the show.
Oh, that's so great.
And he's like, we just crank up the reverb, the delay, and the distortion, and you're just going to be like screaming in there. It's just going to be, it's just like, it has an emotional anchor to it. People can sing along on their own. You can play it at any pace that you want.
It was right after the election.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not trying to bring politics into it. I'm just saying, like, it is of a song of like, take it for what it is. But he's like, that's a song that's easy enough for you to play, but has enough of the wow factor versus like Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars, and can I really, it's just like all else I could play. So, so anyways, we did the dress rehearsal the night before in the auditorium. It's empty. And I had a few friends in the audience as we're doing the sound checks. I mean, we have fog. I've made this ridiculous montage of stupid videos where it's like me flying on top of an eagle, not joking. And just like, I just wanted to be like a little,
I have to come
like,
next year. I'm going to be.
It's just ridiculous, right? And I play it twice. I mean, like, I could do this blindfold walking upstairs backwards. And my friends in the audience were watching me in the dress rehearsal, were crying. And I said, that's what I want to give people tomorrow. I wanted to give people something beautiful. I wanted to show them, like, if you practice and you put in the work, that you can create a gift, something beautiful for people. And that's what I wanted to do. Well, careful what you wish for, because here's what happened. And you're the first person to hear this story. Because this just happened. This is like 4 days ago. So it's 20 minutes before this event, and I'm backstage. The noise, the energy is palpable. People are like ready for this thing. And this is how I'm going to start the event. Like, James comes on stage with a spotlight and just goes. So no pressure at all. And I hear a voice tell me, you're going to mess it up. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know enough about my intuition versus my ego. And I'm like, wait, who just said that? What the fuck? No. And I went and played it 4 more times. Like, no, I got this. So I go out on that stage and I do the first bar, and the rush of energy that people gave me, I blacked out. And I got so expanded that in a nanosecond, this is the experience I had. I was the room, and then I was me again. And in that moment, I looked down at my hand and I had no idea where in the song that I was. And I completely fucked it up. And I just laughed. I'm just being me. So I just laughed and said, wait, hold on, guys. And I just kept going and missed the beat, kept going. I even said, I was like, hold on, wait. Okay. And then I kept going. And I came off of that stage and I totally shame spiraled. I was so hard on myself. I wasn't embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed, but I get really hung up that when I had that intention, I felt like I didn't get to give them that. I was like, I had friends tearing up last night. I was like, that's what I wanted to give them. I wanted to give them something beautiful. And I was like beating myself up for it. And Jenny was so sweet. She's like, just let it go. Like, no one even notices, like you're so much harder on yourself. And I was like, I know, but I really wanted to, I knew what it could have been, and it wasn't that. And that's talk about an artist always like, I wanted it here. I know I'm there, and I came short of that. Anyways, I told this whole long story to get to this point. Little by little, as I'm interacting with the guests, at first it happened once, and I was like, that's a fluke. Again and again and again, these people come up to me and they said, when you messed up there and just laughed and kept going, that was the most moving and inspiring thing I've ever seen you do, because I've been so afraid to make a mistake. And I realized that you just laugh it off and keep going. No big deal. And it's like this no big deal energy. And the amount of people said that was the most beautiful thing. And I was like, well, shit, you careful what you wish for, because I asked to give something beautiful to the audience. And the reason I say
Yes.
this is the more you step into that conversation we're having, the more you are just used as a tool or a vessel to be of service. And it doesn't mean it's always what comes out of your mouth. It could just mean what you represent for people or how you show up for people. And in that moment, it blindsided me that me being playful and fun and making mistakes and not taking myself, because I don't take myself too seriously, was more beautiful and more impactful than a perfect song. And that was a gift for me.
I love it. Dude, yes. 100%.
So I'll take it to the last one-liner, which is so many people and people like your audience are looking everywhere for their purpose. And I got confirmation from my shaman. You're not getting it. When you're looking for you're not getting it. Check your pulse, check that you're breathing, and your first purpose is simply to be alive right now. And then when you can just be and be alive, you're already in purpose. Because one of the things that we're not present to is every interaction. Every person you bump into, every person you talk to or don't talk to or interact with in any capacity is having an impact. And that unique frequency that you carry, your energetic signature, that is already your purpose in action, that you're existing. And then you just get to say, this uniqueness that is me, that is here for a reason as a gift, do I just choose to live a life where this gift is given to more people? And that's it. And it's like, it's not me. It's nothing personal. I can't say that from an ego place. Like, yes, it's a gift to be in my, that's not what I'm saying. It's to say, if I can sit there and be proof of what's possible for somebody or give them permission to make a mistake or inspire them to dream a little bigger, then that's just you being alive. And then your being in essence is just a little bigger to reach more people.
Yes.
And so it was already, your purpose was you were already living in purpose because you're alive. And now it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Your vibration is your contribution.
Absolutely. And if you're alive, then you're vibrating, you know?
James, let's go. Oh, this is perfect.
Okay.
This is so perfect. This is so perfect.
I lose track of time and everyone teases me that I talk so much and I do.
It was absolutely, absolutely perfect. Thank you so much.
I'm just seeing, I was like, it's 3:30. What else do I have?
It was like 1:20.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it was an hour and 20. Okay, cool. That's good. Okay.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Where can we get amongst you? Get amongst your world, business by design?
Yeah, I mean, I think because everyone's listening here as a podcast, I have a podcast. It's called the Mind Your Business Podcast. I started it in 2016.
So good.
It was really cool because the world was really different back then. And I started bringing all these spiritual distinctions to business owners back then. It was really cool because I was video business before that. So my business went, for a nanosecond, went totally down. I went from 170,000 contacts on my email list down to 30,000. I was getting all these 1-star reviews like, you can't build your business off of crystals and feng shui and what is this weird woo-woo stuff? But I had to do it and I had to start talking about these things because they were making a profound impact on my life. And that was in 2016. And I think we have like 700 episodes now. And that's Mind Your Business Podcast. James Wedmore, James and Jenny co-host it together. And she's a psychic. So she's she comes from, she has Native American lineage herself. And she is a crazy intuitive psychic. And so it's really cool us working together because, you know, she gets to be in the feminine, I get to be in the masculine, we get to play together and have some fun. So it's
I can't wait to come to Sedona.
That's what I'm saying.
Meet you guys. I can't wait.
Yeah, you got to come. Yeah.
So great. Thank you so much for being here. This was amazing. This was so energizing, so valuable. Thank you for your insight and your inspiration and just holding the vision of like what's truly possible for all of us in business.
Yeah, I think be patient and more will be possible. I think I'm the tortoise and I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And it's really easy to put one foot in front of the other when you really like what you do. So I think it's important that that's why people say do what you love. Because if you're doing what you love, you're doing more of what you're here to do. And we don't want to ever lose sight of that. I can do this for 17 years because there's more joy than suffering. There's more fun than adulting, you know, so it helps.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Can't Be Contained podcast. We'll catch you soon.
Can't be contained.